The word crypto was stolen, hijacked by scammers. Before cryptocurrency existed, it was just cryptography, an ancient technology that's been around for thousands of years. Cryptography is mathematics, it's academia, encryption. It's pretty punk. It's very cool.
I'm Julian Assange.
Roger, get you in.
A furious war over the future of our societies is underway. To most, this war is invisible. On the one side, a network of governments and corporations that spy on everything we do. On the other, the cypherpunks, virtuoso geek activists.
But over the last, couple of decades, it's suddenly come to represent scams.
Reactions on social media over a virtual coin known as Libra.
The president of Argentina just launched a shitcoin.
Finally time that we get into the meme coin disaster.
He went as far as to fake his own death to stoke interest in his token.
Legalized Ponzi schemes. I mean, that's what a meme coin is.
Bankman-Fried and his co-conspirators stole billions of dollars from FTX customers.
Sam Bankman-Fried is in jail and on trial facing multiple federal fraud and conspiracy charges.
Last year, $17 billion was scammed from people in crypto, and another $3 billion was stolen in hacks. It makes sense that everyone thinks crypto is a scam, because honestly, most of the time, it is.
Because here's the truth. Palantir is now embedded in the Army, the NSA, the FBI, ICE, Border Patrol, the Pentagon, and Britain's National Health Service to see everything about you, your health records, your financial transactions, your location data, everything into one system.
Slowly, we will end up into a global totalitarian surveillance society. By totalitarian, I mean a total surveillance. And that perhaps there will just be the last free living people. And these last free living people are those people who understand how to use this, cryptography, to defend against this complete, total surveillance. Are we headed for that sort of scenario?
This is the story of the most misunderstood technology in the world today, cryptography.
War-sick world.
The breaking of encryption was essential to the war effort. England would probably have fallen if they'd not been able to read the Enigma messages, because every time the Germans sent bombers, the RAF knew where they were sending them and could mass the planes there to defend. If any significant fraction of those attacks had gotten through, England would have been much more helpless, may well have fallen, and the course of World War II may have changed.
The history of cryptography from the 1970s till now was very Rage Against the Machine, I think, would be, it's pretty punk. It was academics, but they were decrypting things and encrypting things. Well, not just doing that, they were designing the technology to be able to do that. Mathematic formulas, algorithms. It attracted a lot of activists, artists, lots of different types of people who ultimately wanted to see the world become a better place for the everyday person, fighting for human rights, liberties. In 1976, two mathematicians, Whitfield Diffie and Martin Hellman, proved that private communication between individuals was even possible.
Public key cryptography gives you a mechanism whereby you can recover this ability to have an impenetrably private conversation between two people.
They classified this technology as munitions, the same category as missiles or machine guns.
National Security Agency declared the unrestrained public discussion of cryptographic research threatened our national security. The private cryptography community and the government have been sparring over the issue ever since.
They threatened these big organizations, and that scared them because those bureaucrats didn't have a lot, of skin in the game. But I felt it was just too important, so I risked spending the rest of my life in jail to set cryptography free, which I did, and I'm very proud of it.
You have an inalienable right to privacy. Our next guest thinks so. In fact, he created the definitive encryption tool, Pretty Good Privacy, or PGP. Here to share his views on cryptography and privacy, Phil Zimmerman. I'm so glad to have you on the Screensavers. It's wonderful to meet you.
A programmer and anti-nuclear activist, Phil Zimmerman, released a paper. It turned that technology from 1976 into something that everyone could use. The same technology that we now call end-to-end encryption that powers Signal, WhatsApp, so many things that we use today.
Same problem. I thought it would be a good idea for to use cryptography to protect mailing lists and bulletin board transmissions and things like that.
When he released it, he specifically released it for human rights activists. It was military-grade encryption at the time, and the US government didn't like that.
So for 3 years, I was under criminal investigation. They thought I violated the Arms Export Control Act.
As a response, he published PGP's source code as a book through MIT Press, which was a pretty clever move because books were classified as free speech, and the charges were dismissed after many, many years of fighting, but they were dismissed.
Must be very gratified because, and I'm sure you've heard these stories, I've heard many stories of people fighting corrupt governments in South America, all over the world, using PGP to continue their efforts. It's done what you intended it to do.
Yes, every human rights organization in the world today uses PGP. The White House uses it.
Really? That's interesting.
The Vatican uses it. Organized crime uses it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But ordinary people use it.
And this certainly wasn't the first tussle with the government or institutions that cryptography has had.
But the centerpiece of the case that we did, the government was basically requiring a license if you wanted to publish computer code on the internet that let people keep things secret. That was the basis of the Bernstein case. I represented Dan Bernstein.
Which set a precedent that code was speech, therefore freedom of speech.
And we challenged those regulations on the grounds of the First Amendment.
And then came the cypherpunks.
We've exposed the world's secrets.
These documents belong to the United States government.
Been attacked by the powerful.
The United States strongly condemns.
Hey, quit asking questions. He broke the law.
Illegally shoot the son of a...
Cypherpunks, a group of mathematicians, activists, hackers, and programmers who had a mailing list. And that mailing list of, I think it was around 2,000 people, had Julian Assange, Bram Cohen, who's the guy who founded BitTorrent, and many people linked to the Bitcoin white paper. One of those people being Hal Finney, who received the first ever transaction from Satoshi. And to this day, the battle for this tech, this anti-surveillance, free speech tech that protects individuals' sovereignty and rights is being fought, unfortunately. It has to be a fight. Roman Storm was convicted in August 2025 for releasing open source privacy code.
I just wanted to solve problems that would improve people's lives.
Faces retrial in October of this year, with an additional possible sentencing of 40 years.
I would say I'm not a regulator, I'm not a congressman to dictate what's better, what's worse. I'm not a lobbyist, I'm a software engineer. I don't make laws, I don't get to decide and think how it should.
Roman's words on a post on X for writing open source code for a protocol that I don't control, for transactions I never touched. It feels unfortunately very similar to what happened with Zimmerman in the 90s, which inevitably became tech that we use every single day to have safe communication on the internet. Cryptography, it's cool, it's punk, it fights for individual sovereignty. Ultimately though, cryptography is a technology that was always designed to help the world.
Today, we are taking decisive actions to protect the U.S.
Share
economy.
prices continued to tumble.
Lehman Brothers was forced to declare itself bankrupt.
The largest single point drop. They were having massive private gains at public loss.
And it could have opened the ugliest chapter yet of the recent financial meltdown. A meltdown that
would become the greatest recession since the Great Depression.
The GFC. People lost their homes, their life savings. It was a nightmare. So a group of cypherpunks, well, they looked at the situation and said, we could fix this. And Bitcoin was created.
For the first time in the entire history of the world, anyone can now send or receive any amount of money with anyone else, anywhere, instantly, basically for free. And it's impossible for anyone, including governments, to stop them from doing that. Think about that. Anybody in this room, you can now send and receive any amount of money with anyone, anywhere in the world, right now, And there's nothing that anybody can do to stop that. That was not possible before the invention of Bitcoin, and that is a fundamentally world-changing technology for every single human being on the planet.
It quickly became a movement for a new technology that the world had never really heard of before: cryptocurrency.
What the internet did for information, Bitcoin is doing for money.
This is going to change the economic culture.
Bitcoin could be a microeconomic miracle worker, and it could be a macroeconomic wrecking ball.
Is Bitcoin the currency of the future? A godsend?
It did enable people to take control of their own finances, but it came at the cost of privacy. And Satoshi, he knew this. He was aware. In the white paper, section 10, the necessity to announce all transactions publicly precludes this method. The reality is Satoshi couldn't build privacy into the technology in 2009. The computing power wasn't there yet. They hadn't been cracked, so to say, or in a way that was usable. It always had that cost: privacy. Bitcoin quickly became the biggest, most public financial system the world has ever seen. Every single transaction is visible to everybody. Now, at this point in my research of all of this, I thought, big deal, who cares? But I can speak from personal experience. When using this technology, it's kind of unusable when it's public. If you put your bank transactions on the internet and you pay one of your friends, they then can go and look at all of your transactions. They'll be able to see that I only earned $40 from all of my time making these YouTube videos. And I'm eating Migarang every day. No, it's not that bad, but please subscribe. I would really appreciate it. Yes, please. Share it with a friend. And if you extrapolate this beyond my YouTube payments and eating habits, it is actually something that stops the technology from becoming a real usable product at scale. Last year, I went to an event, Midnight Hackathon, and I had a bunch of people speaking there. One of the people was ex-MI5, and he spoke about how it was dysfunctional. At a very large scale, it becomes a national security risk. Let's say you're a government and you want to use cryptocurrency, blockchain, and send a payment to, it could be aid, it could be for war.
The US spends about $101 billion a year on intelligence, both to protect and gather it. And it also applies to businesses. Only about 0.02% operate publicly.
How can you, as a country or a business, send money anywhere if everyone can see it? It just doesn't work. The innovation slowly became less and less over the next, 15 years about cryptography values. It became greed, money, to the point of where the industry is now. The further that cryptocurrency got from Bitcoin or cryptography, the more it became a total and utter disgrace, a total scam. The reputation of cryptocurrency got so bad that Bitcoin OGs like Jack Dorsey made this post that Bitcoin was not crypto anymore.
I think the Bitcoin white paper is one of the most seminal works of computer science in the last 20, 30 years. It's poetry.
Yeah,
it
it's
really
pretty
is.
cool technology. That's not often talked about. There's so much sort of hype around digital currency, about sort of the financial impacts of it, but the actual technology is quite beautiful from a computer science perspective.
Yeah, and the underlying principles behind it that went into it, even to the point of releasing it under a pseudonym. I think that's a very, very powerful statement. The timing of when it was released is powerful.
No. In 2009, the crisis was financial. Right now, though, the crisis is very different.
If this technology goes wrong, it can go quite wrong.
Everything is panopticon now. So if you had to ask me why, my answer is technology.
And we're living in freaky times right now. Looks exactly like Tom Cruise.
And so that would give you, more power than any living person. So
I'm just wondering how you see that.
I used to worry about something like that much more.
Does humanity know what it's doing?
No. I think we're moving into a period when, for the first time ever, we may have things more intelligent than us.
The global intelligence crisis was first mentioned as an idea or an event in a research paper by a research company, Syntrini. They just mentioned it as a hypothetical event that could happen. I'm proposing that maybe we're already in it and it's going to be a gradual thing that just happens over time. I made this graphic to show how I've thought about this in an encapsulated way from all of my research. I don't see this current problem that society is facing, humanity, as just AI. I think it's a problem that's already existed and AI is accelerating it. And it works as a loop that kind of self-feeds itself consistently. Essentially, the way that this system works, we are putting in all of this information, our lives, everything, our messages and our calls, our faces and biometrics, bank details and payments, IDs and documents, locations, movements, purchasing behavior, like everything on the digital world is tracked and used as big data. All of that data gets pulled into this intelligence system in the middle. Data brokers, AI models, smartphones, and that all gets processed and it comes back out the other side and it gets used on us in different ways through deep fakes and manipulation that can also change information and what we see. Hacked IDs and identity theft. We have to give up our IDs in many countries like where I live to use the internet, and then it gets hacked. Statistically, every single country that's made that mandated has had a breach, which, well, it's concerning. There's a company called Palantir that did $4.5 billion of revenue last year. That's up 56%. And it's software that runs inside everything, every intelligence system you can think of, the CIA, Pentagon, ICE, IRS. There's also deals with countries that aren't the US, like the UK. And the government is funding that company to actually look at our records and put them back into this system and learn and engage more. And this loop just keeps going, feeding itself through acceleration and AI.
AI can only know what's in the data it has access to, which means there is a hunger for your private data, and there's a real temptation to do privacy invading forms of AI.
It's kind of turned what was still not that passive, but it was a passive kind of system that was running into this activated model and thing that can, well, it can shape our reality in lots of different ways or not allow us to see what's real anymore. Final hurdle that most people in the AI safety crowd are really thinking about is what happens when humans don't control it anymore? What happens if they can't control it? What if it can't be governed? What if there is no policy? And that is the reality of how tech has been treated over the last couple of decades.
We have treated technology as a Wild West.
Absolutely.
Just everyone can do whatever they want. Just sell all of our younger generation's dating lives to corporations for profit. And who pays the cost for this? Who has liability?
Can cryptography fix this? I wish I could say yes 100%. As AI gets more powerful, cryptography is also getting more powerful. It's kind of like this beautiful yin and yang where there's offense, which is AI, and defense on the other side, which is cryptography. And this cryptography is what can empower individuals as well as institutions and anyone else that can build it into the technology that exists today to make the digital world safe, which in turn will make reality safe. And I don't want to get into robots, but that's a whole other topic. And in this cryptographic defense, there is amazing innovations that are happening with ideas that were generated in the 70s and 80s finally being cracked now. And they sound like literal sci-fi. One thing is called FHE, fully homographic encryption, which essentially allows you to work on computed data in the cloud encrypted. So anything that you send into the cloud is actually encrypted and other people can work on that encrypted. An encryption called zero knowledge proof lets you prove that something is real without revealing the thing itself. Again, a strange concept. This is really valuable in things like identification. When a government collects ID, instead of just putting it on a database that someone can hack, you could put the ZK proof there and it is proven to be true It solves this problem. The technology does exist. It just needs to be used. There's a load of projects that's been working on this for years, like Aztec developing something called Plonk, Starknet, who revolutionized this technology, and another project called Midnight. And in Midnight's case, it even has Google Cloud running critical infrastructure to help verify its network and these verification proofs. And Ethereum, the biggest smart contract platform in the world, is making this its main focus, privacy. Another type of protection is mixnets and decentralized mixnets from projects like NIM, which is founded by a cryptographer by the name of Harry Halpin.
And so what we want is transparency. The cypherpunk motto is transparency for the powerful, so this would be governments, institutions, and privacy for the rest of us, privacy for ordinary users.
And then in the world of post-quantum, quantum computing, Apple is already putting it into their mobile phones, this technology. And there's things that are much more known and understood, like Signal, end-to-end encryption, are messages that are protected. HTTPS, that is cryptography. But this is just scratching the surface of all of the projects that are doing incredible work on cryptography to try to protect us against this problem that's coming into the world. There's a whole ecosystem, and I wish I could list them all off, but it's probably a series of 200 and 200 videos. In this odd serendipity, there's the cypherpunks building it from one side and solving these problems, and big institutions on the other. In some cases, them working together. This gives me hope, because I think it's really easy to say, well, the cypherpunks are evil assholes and they're just doing censorship resistance and don't care about normal safety. And big institutions are doing all this evil stuff and they're controlling our data. In some cases, both sides of those arguments are true. And in other cases, it's just too extreme. I like to think that maybe, just maybe, this is humanity saying this problem is bigger than any other problem and we have to find a way to solve it. Because as some researchers, they say that it could all be over if we don't think about this. So to any of the cryptographers that have worked on this in the past, still are, despite government bans, potentially jail time, thank you.
But I felt it was just too important, so I risked spending the rest of my life in jail to set cryptography free, which I did, and I'm very proud of it.
We're entering a period of great uncertainty where we're dealing with things we've never dealt with before. And normally the first time you deal with something totally novel, you get it wrong. And we can't afford to get it wrong with these things.
Can't afford to get it wrong. Why?
Well, because they might take over.
Take over from humanity?
Yes, that's a possibility.
Why would they
I'm
want
not saying
to?
it will happen. If we could stop them ever wanting to, that would be great. But it's not clear we can stop them ever wanting to. I'm not an expert on how to do regulation. I'm just a scientist who suddenly realized that these things are getting smarter than us. And I want to sort of blow the whistle and say we should worry seriously about how we stop these things getting control over us. And it's going to be very hard, and I don't have the solutions. I wish I did.
If you watch this video, thank you so much. I put a lot of time and effort, and there was so much research behind the scenes. I'm going to have like a citations of all my research and where I pulled different things from. Often I didn't say the reference in the actual video, but it's something that I read or consumed to figure things out. And I want to say thank you to Blockmates, who I produced this with. They've been a massive supporter of my work for the last however long, 6 months, a year. And I wouldn't be able to keep making these videos about what is technically a niche topic if it wasn't for them. They're a media company with a focus on research and making it very human, and I encourage you to check them out. They do really good work and they're good people. Thank you for watching.